Hi, everyone.
Welcome, everyone. I wanted to get my glasses in case I needed them. Well, anyway, happy Juneteenth. It's a big day here in the United States, and Kat and I are the only two working, and only because we had scheduled this, quite a while ago. But this is a very special day that we should all reflect on and the importance of it. So it is a day off for my entire paid day off for my entire group of employees, other than Kat and I, because we had committed to this day this day for you guys. So anyway, I just want you to make sure that you do appreciate this day, and we certainly do from an organizational standpoint, and celebrate it. Okay, so that said, we got a little treat for you today. This is obviously one of my passions is micronutrients, and the fact that the vast majority are very underserved in hitting the micronutrients that we need to. Now we're talking about vitamins and minerals from food alone. So that's really what this is about. The crux of what we're going to talk about is, we have these wonderful things called RDAs, recommended dietary allowances. And we still find health professionals that gets hung up saying, well, if you eat perfect, then you can get them from food. Well, of course, we know no one does that. Hundreds of studies have already proven that. So I'm just kind of setting you up for what you're about to see here today, and why, as you know, since I was 24 years old and I've lectured around the world, that I don't care what you do, but if you do one thing from a supplement standpoint, you better take a complete multivitamin mineral to complement your best efforts at trying to eat a good diet. Okay, so that's and there's a whole bunch of other reasons as well, but I just wanted to just kind of start that and lay the stage here for what we're going to see today, and why we teach all our practitioners, and there's 40,000 of you, by the way, why they should make sure that they pass this message on to all their clients and all their family members, forever.
Yeah.
Because it will make a difference in the long run. Trust me, overall. Okay, so with that said, Kat's going to be starting this thing off. Okay, and then I'm just going to every once in a while come in and pick up one little part I want to talk about. So Kat, you guys all know who Kat is. She's our corporate she's not just our VP or executive vice president of nutritional service, but our corporate dietitian and superstar dietitian, I should say, and sports dietitian as well.
That's arguable. Thanks, Neil. I appreciate it. And those of you, I see some people are joining us from PTA Global, our sister company. Welcome. If you don't know Neil Spruce, of course, he's our founder, fearless leader in the nutrition space, most definitely in our fitness industry. And thank you very much, Neil, for the intro. And just so you guys know, I started out in this industry as a trainer. My degree was in athletic training. I didn't really take supplements. I didn't really believe in it. When I went back to school to get my master's degree in nutrition, and then started working in the field, that's when I really started to learn how important micronutrients are. So before we dig right in, I wanted to give you some housekeeping. You are in listen only mode, like always. We're going to be capturing a recording. So if you've got to leave early, then we'll post that recording probably by early next week, along with a copy of the slides for those of you who are asking that. If any question pops up into your mind throughout the webinar, open up the questions tab in the go to webinar little panel towards the bottom. You can type in a question at any point during our webinar. And then at the end, Neil and I always stay as long as you guys want to for Q&A. Do you have a time restriction today, Neil?
I do not.
Another meeting you got to
Yeah. Because there's nobody here except me.
Okay, so we will stay as long as you guys want to talk about this and answer your questions and go into, I don't know, philosophical discussion if you want to. I think we're always willing to, we're always willing to talk to you guys about this stuff. So hang tight, type your questions in, and here we go. Eating for micronutrients. Okay, so here's what we're going to be going through, high level outline. What are the micronutrients and what do they actually do? Neil mentioned the RDAs. You'll hear us use that acronym a lot. And that really tells us how much we need. Then we'll talk about eating patterns. How do we get everything? Can you get all the micronutrients you need from food alone? And I hear a lot of people say this, like Neil said, and I'm going to argue, this point a little bit. I'm going to challenge you guys to really think about it more deeply. Some of the common underconsumed vitamins and minerals in our country, are people really getting enough? When you look at the data, what does it actually show? And then what are some consequences of micronutrient shortages, aside from deficiencies, which don't really happen in the United States? You don't see people walking around with vitamin C, deficiency, scurvy. But things do happen when you don't get enough, which we'll go into. And then finally, we'll close with some evidence-based strategies. We'll take a look at some of the research, some of the data. What does it tell us in terms of micronutrients and what we can do and what we can advise our clients and our family members to do as practitioners. Okay, so that is our agenda. We have a lot to cover. Hi, Bernice. You just typed in hi in the questions box. Good to see you here from Hawaii. You're always tuning in.
Ken, I'm sorry, the slides on my computer aren't moving. I'm still on the title slide, eating for your micros.
Are they moving? Can someone type in and let me know if it's moving on your guys' end? What about now, Neil?
I'm still on eating for your micros.
Okay, let me see what everyone else is saying. Maybe it's you. Not moving, no, not moving, no. I'm still on title. Oh, okay. Hang on. Maybe I need to reshare. One sec. Sharing. Paused. That's why. Paused. Thank you for letting me know.
Now
what about now?
Picture. Okay, there we go. Content to be presented.
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, type in. You guys type in. Thank you for letting me know. Tell me if you see it now. Yep. Cool. Perfect.
Okay, good.
Okay, good. Everybody can see it. So this is what I just covered in terms of our topics that we're going to be going through today, right? Our content to be presented. All right, here we go. All right, so check this out. I love this slide because people throw around the term metabolism all the time, like this affects your metabolism, you're going to ruin your metabolism. Well, this is your metabolism. And in the middle for you, geeky people like Neil and I is the Krebs cycle, the citric acid cycle, right? That produces all the ATP for the most part throughout the day. And so what this represents is everything that's needed to happen to keep you alive. Your heart beating, your brain working, you're digesting food, transporting oxygen to your muscles when you're working out. So this all happens automatically without any effort on your behalf. So this is what metabolism really is. And so you may be wondering, well, what does it take to run your metabolism? You already know, right? We have 6 classes of nutrients that's required to run your metabolism, and oxygen, which is, of course, it's not a nutrient. But we have the macronutrients, carbs, proteins, fats. And, this actually depicts alcohol as a macronutrient for some of you that might be a macro.
During the shutdown, it's become one for a lot of us.
Yeah, it's become a macro for a lot of us. But we need those in large quantities because what do? It provides energy in the form of ATP to make all those reactions run, right? So we need to have these on a daily basis. What happens when you don't get enough macros? Well, you start to lose weight, right? Your body starts to use its own energy to keep you going. And then we have the micronutrients, the vitamins and minerals, and that's what we'll be talking about largely today. Okay, what are vitamins and minerals? Well, they're what's called cofactors in metabolic pathways. And enzymes basically kickstart a reaction. And those enzymes are proteins. And those proteins require cofactors in these various metabolic pathways of metabolism. And there's approximately 30 vitamins and minerals, right, required for human health. And so here are some examples, as this infographic shows, of some of the things that the vitamins and minerals do. Well, we need your B vitamins to extract energy. You guys have probably heard this, B vitamins give you energy. Well, you need them to extract energy, yes, from food. Vitamin D, we've heard a lot about vitamin D during COVID. And what do you need it for? You need it to form bone, also for your immune system to have the appropriate response to fight off a virus or a bacteria. And vitamin D really acts more like a steroid hormone in that it affects about 1,000 different biological processes in the body. That's about a fifth of our human genome. It's pretty amazing how many things vitamin D affects. And then vitamin E, it's actually a family of vitamins, if you will. It's an antioxidant. What does that actually mean? That means it helps protect cells from being damaged. Your cells, have that lipid bilayer, if you would remember. And so vitamin E protects the lipid bilayer and all the other components from being damaged. And then vitamin K, there's actually two forms. You need vitamin K, also a fat-soluble vitamin. You need to form blood clots, very important, and to shuttle calcium into bone. And we'll get into vitamin K and vitamin E and vitamin D a little bit deeper as we go along. And then magnesium, the mineral, essential mineral. It does a lot, 300 different reactions in the body. It regulates muscle contraction, nerve transmission. You also need it to repair DNA. And then iron, of course, you need it to transport oxygen throughout your body, through your organs, through your muscles, etc. So these are just some of examples of the vitamins and minerals and some of their functions. Many of the vitamins and minerals, almost all, have multiple functions throughout the body. So this is sort of like a little introductory of what they do. Okay, so you might be wondering, what is it that we need, right? And so the Institute of Medicine came up, so a bunch of smart scientists came up with the dietary recommended intakes, right? DRIs for the 30 vitamins and minerals. And the DRIs are composed of different values, which you're going to see us refer to throughout this, and you see it in the literature as such. So RDA is the main one you'll see. You'll probably heard that a lot. Recommended daily intake. That's the amount you want to shoot for. It covers about the needs of 97 to 98% of the population, right? So those are what we want to meet on a regular basis. Now, sometimes you're going to say EAR, estimated average requirement. Okay, so that covers the needs of about 50% of the population. That is set at 2 standard deviations below the RDA. Okay, so it's much lower than the RDA. And Neil's going to talk about this a lot as well when he goes through some of the other data. Then we have adequate intakes. The AI is set when there's not enough data to figure out what the RDA is, right, or the AR. So it's sort of a guesstimate, if you will, based on available data. And then the tolerable upper limit, the UL, is the maximum amount you can consume without adverse health effects over time. So there's an upper limit set for the vitamins and minerals and some other nutrients as well. It's going to be based on, as you can see, this is just a sample snippet of a chart I put together, which is also online. It's going to be based on your needs are going to be based on your age, your gender, your life stage, and then your activity level. And the goal here, the aim of the dietary requirements is their RDAs are set a little bit higher to prevent a deficiency disease, right? It's not necessarily to optimize your quality of life or to optimize healthy aging, which we'll explain a little more deeply.
So just a
Neil,
quick
you want to add in?
Just a quick note on this. So for many of you that might know the DRIs, dietary reference intakes, right? And RDA, they actually, the RDA actually is the recommended dietary allowances. So it's got it's got a little spacing in there for different things. So I just want you to kind of understand what that definition is. And I know Kat already said it, is that it satisfies 98% of the population. Ears satisfy only 50% of the population, maybe, we don't even know that. And AI's adequate intake, it just means we don't know how much you need, okay? So the reason, all I'm trying to summarize here is that all we pay attention to is recommended dietary allowances, which is RDA. That's all we pay attention to because that satisfies the majority of the population.
And then the data we'll be looking at shows how many people don't even reach the EARs, which is way below the RDAs, right, Neil? So we'll be going into that a little bit more. Okay, cool. Yeah. So once again, you're in listen only mode for those of you guys who are just joining. If you have a question, type it into the questions box below as you think of stuff as we go along. Okay, so the key takeaway, all these RDAs and AIs and EARs are set for all the different vitamins and minerals. And really, so what you need to do is you need to consume a wide variety of minimally processed foods from all the food groups, right? That allows you to maximize your micronutrient intake while staying within your calorie needs to achieve and maintain a healthy body weight, right? So that's a mouthful. And you may be wondering, well, how the heck do I do that? So here's an example of what a micronutrient-rich diet looks like. So for all of you who say, you know, you can get all your micronutrient needs from food. So here's what it would look like for someone who consumes 2,200 calories a day, okay? 3 cups of vegetables a day distributed as follows. 2 cups per week of your dark green veggies, spinach, kale, etc. 6 cups per week of your red and orange veggies, and then you want to also consume 2 cups per week of your beans and peas, your legumes, 6 cups per week of starchy veggies, 5 cups per week of other vegetables that don't fit into those categories. So as you can see, you want to eat like the color of the rainbow because all the different colors have various micronutrients in it. And then you've got to get your fruit in as well. As you guys know, there's a wide variety of fruits. You want to vary your fruit on a regular basis to vary your micronutrient intake. Now, think to yourself, how many of you are creatures of habit and eat the same fruits and vegetables on a regular basis, right? You're probably thinking, I do, and think of the ones that you normally get at the grocery store. Well, you're limiting your micronutrient intake if you're doing that. So you would also need 3.5 ounces of whole grains, because obviously there's micros in there, 3.5 ounces of refined grains. Now, why refined enriched grains? Because the government added nutrients to the food supply to shore up shortages. A classic example of that is folate, which Neil will talk about, folic acid. 3 cups of dairy. You might be wondering, what's in dairy? Well, calcium is in dairy naturally. There's 9 essential nutrients in dairy, and vitamin D was added to dairy because the population was falling short of vitamin D once we switched from agriculture to industrial society. Then we have 6 ounces of protein. Now think about this, you guys, 6 ounces of protein a day for 2,200 calories. So that's what I meant when some of these RDAs are meant to prevent deficiencies. It's not necessarily optimal for your specific goal of losing body fat, gaining muscle, etc. So here's the breakdown of protein. Here's what it would look like to maximize your micronutrient intake. 9 ounces per week of seafood. Why? Because it's got your omega-3 fat in it, right? Your DHA and EPA. 28 ounces per week of your meats, poultry, and eggs. Eggs is the richest source of choline, a B vitamin for your brain. 5 ounces per week of nuts, seeds, and soy. You've got your plant protein sources that also have their unique micronutrients. And then you need fat because your body doesn't make essential fat. So you need to get 29 grams of oils from healthy sources. So think to yourself, who eats like this all the time? Can you think of anyone, Neil?
I don't know anyone, and I guess worse than that is, let's say you did. You don't know where those fruits and vegetables were grown. We already know that there's different soils in different parts of not just the US, but all over the world. And if the mineral is not in the soil, it can't be in the plant. So an orange or an apple grown in a different state versus one grown there, it doesn't have the same nutrient content. So you would never know if it was missing something your whole life if you were buying things from there. So keep that in mind.
That's a really good point. You know, just the variation of food depending on where you live. That's a huge point, can lead to micronutrient shortages. So let's take a look. This is how we want people to eat, right? This is how dietitians like myself tell people how to eat. This is why the food guide pyramid came out, which nobody followed, right? So look at what Americans are actually consuming, right? So this is straight from the dietary guidelines. And I didn't mention, but you guys on this slide, if you look at the URL at the bottom and you want to look at what your food pattern looks like, you just go to the URL at the bottom of this page, type it in, and you'll be able to see your calorie level and the breakdown. And you guys are going to get a copy of these slides, which will be posted on our site. So here's what Americans are actually eating. Okay, so let me break down this graph for you, what it actually depicts. So on the left-hand side, you're going to get all the major food groups, and then you're going to get the things to limit that are associated with disease and health issues like added sugars, saturated fats, excess sodium, right? So the orange is your intake that's either meeting above the recommendation, you're meeting it, or above the limit. So let me just break down vegetables real quick. So vegetables, what does that mean? This orange bar means that about 90% of the population is below the daily recommendation. Okay, that means the rest, 10%, are at it. 10% of the population gets enough vegetables every day. Now let's go down the line. Fruit, right? Almost 80% of the population is below the recommendation for fruit, and the rest is getting enough. Here it is for grains. You can see dairy, most people don't consume enough dairy, and that's going to be related to the issues with vitamin D, people not getting vitamin D and calcium. Protein, we're doing a little bit better on protein. Oils, not so much. And then down here, people are eating too much added sugars, too much saturated fat, and too much sodium, right? So that's what Americans are actually eating compared to the micronutrient diet. Put another way, you guys, these are the top sources of calories in the United States. So as you can see, most people are not consuming a micronutrient-rich diet. They're consuming what's called an obesogenic diet, meaning that it tends to be high in calories and low in micronutrients, setting us up for nutrient shortages, okay, which Neil is going to talk about now.
Yeah. So this is a classic example of, so this is from 2009, all right? And you look at the percentage of people that are below the RDA on these individual nutrients. We didn't put vitamin D in here on purpose because people weren't even cognizant about what was going on with vitamin D at that particular time. But look at these numbers. So 15% of the population is low on selenium. Folate, 75% of the population is low. Vitamin E, 86%. But all of us, here's what I want you to grasp. All of us are in 7 or 8 or 9 of these categories. It's not like this is one. We're in one of these categories somewhere if food alone is a delivery. So go to the next, hit the next one there, Kat. Okay, so look, the takeaway is that food, including fortified food, is clearly not working. And those are the studies that actually support that all the way through today. And there are hundreds of studies that have proved that. Now, look at this. It's getting worse. So this is the why. So why are we talking about having to supplement our diet? At the end of the day, it's getting worse. This is brand new. So I just updated you from 2009 to today. Okay? Look at this. This is crazy. Vitamin D right now, basically 100% of the population is low on vitamin D. And that's why you heard Dr. Fauci come up there in front of everybody around the world. Pretty much everybody should be taking a vitamin D supplement because we know that can help your immune system. It doesn't help you. Vitamin D doesn't work by itself. No one's going to take a vitamin D supplement. All of a sudden, everything's going to be okay. That's just like dumb. You know, but at the end of the day, we're all low on it. So we do need it. And it does make a difference if you've been doing it your whole life, getting enough. So all of these are the gaps today. Look at this. And you know, why are these gaps bigger? Because people are doing keto diets, gluten-free diets, vegan diets, non-dairy, you know, all of these diet things. It's crazy. So at the end of the day, like I always say, telling people that humans, I mean humans, and the reason I have to say humans, because humans have too many choices. And they're influenced by too many other different things in their lives. I can feed a dog exactly what that animal needs, and that's all they get to eat. They don't get to eat anything else, okay? Different. My horses, as you know, I have many of them. Okay, I can give them exactly what they need. They live a long, great life because of that, because that's all they get. You can't do that with humans. We are diverse. We go into here, we go here, we go here. And I'm not trying to think anybody should. I think you should be able to indulge, you know, eat what you want, right? But to tell them they can get all the vitamin minerals they need from food alone, if they eat properly, is a fool's errand, particularly in Western societies. And that's validated also by the fact it hasn't worked. So let's go next.
Yeah.
And when I tell people this, They always go, after I've told the whole story, they go, oh my God, I gotta take a vitamin mineral every day. But you know what? I always know if they're young or they're in their 20s or their 30s or they're sometimes even in their 40s, they forget it because they make it to work the next day, they make it to school the next day, whatever. They're not even thinking about later on of what that's going to happen. You will pay the price for not building a strong foundation from the time you're in the womb to the time you die. So that'll happen. So I always say, everybody forgets what's most important right off the bat. That's why I had put this little meme up there for you. So next slide. Okay. So this is just, Kat put this together for us. I asked her to do that. All these common diets. These are the vitamin mineral deficiencies in all the common diets today. And I make this argument. Hey, we actually have dietary supplements that we create around people's exercise and everything else. This makes it more important. So it's good for us, all these bad diets, but bad for human beings. Okay. So go to the next one. All right, so why? Here's the rest of the why. And Kat said this, we don't have deficiencies in the US, really. By the way, I shouldn't say that anymore. We have now reinvented rickets. We wiped it out in the early 20th century. People that had rickets was because of vitamin D. As Kat said, we went from agriculture to indoors. And once that happened, everybody's got bone deformity. It was a massive plague around the world. So we had to put vitamin D in milk because milk was something everybody drank because that's how they got their protein and all the nutrients that they needed in one little capsule, right? And so that's what the invention of the milkman. They had to drop milk off at every house and everything else, and vitamin D. So we don't have the deficiencies, but almost everybody is in an insufficiency, as we've just shown you, because you're not eating what you saw earlier. No one knows, but you don't know if you're near a deficiency, and most of us are in an insufficiency if food alone is the delivery. And what is the definition of an insufficiency? It is an undetectable starting point with an insidious progression that physically manifests as sickness or injury, if you're an athlete, injury later in life or in your career, or what we call early aging. And that's what it is. So in other words, you can only build bone. 80% of your bone is built before puberty. So at 16, you build very little bone, and by 30, you don't build any more. All you do is lose it. Okay, so the whole point of this is what we're talking about, is that if you didn't build enough, if you didn't do all the right things early, and that's not when you're thinking about it because you're immortal when you're young, bad things are going to happen when you get older. And you've seen all the people out there right now, 65, 70% of everybody over 65 has osteoporosis, osteopenia, the beginning of it from lack of vitamin D and calcium as a kid, or vitamin K or magnesium, all those things that work together synergistically to build strong bones and muscles and all the other things. So just keep those things in mind. That's what insufficiencies are, and you're not going to just accidentally get it all from food. That is a fool's errand to think that. Now, if you look at this, hit the next slide there, Kat. You can see where we are. Yes. So foods, go back. I'm sorry. Yeah. Foods actually supply about 60 to 85%. We've done a good job fortifying foods. I will give, we've done a pretty good job taking and putting vitamin D in milk, putting B vitamins back in bread, putting folate, putting calcium in orange juice. None of that stuff's natural. And if we didn't do that, we'd all be dead in our 20s and 30s. Just so you know, okay, you're supplementing whether you know it or not. But even with fortified foods, all we're getting is 60 to 85% because we don't know everybody's eating those foods. That's a crapshoot, all right? So 60 to 85% of vitamin mineral activity. And do you remember that slide Kat showed at the very beginning, the metabolism slide? Well, guess what? That metabolism doesn't happen. Not one part of that metabolism happens without vitamins and minerals, 30 of them. You're missing one, you're dead. If you are low on them, like everybody is, they just down-regulate and your metabolism just works a little slower. It works to the vitamin minerals that you bring into the body. That's what it works to. Okay, so that's what you're at. We're functioning at that with food alone delivery. Go to the next slide. So again, these are the top under-consumed nutrients. So these are below the ear, and that is the estimated average requirement. which means that 50% of the people are affected severely by this. So we don't even use this number. We're just putting it in here because 9 nutrients are below the ear. So let's go next. And that's like way below the RDA. You should know that.
Way below, 2 standard deviations below the RDA. And so you might be wondering, like Neil's talking about. Go ahead.
No, you're good. No, go. You finish this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are the consequences of the nutrient insufficiencies? What can actually happen? Calcium is a classic example of this, right? 99% is in your skeleton. The other 1% is tightly regulated in your blood, right? Your body likes to be in homeostasis. So it tightly regulates calcium, tightly regulates blood sugar, etc., to keep all your essential functions going, like muscular contraction, your heart beating, and nerve transmission. So the design is really eloquent, right? And because if you're not getting enough from your food intake, which most people aren't, 50% are below the ear, not even close to recommended amounts, then what does your body do? Well, it can break down your bone to keep your blood levels tightly regulated to keep you alive, to keep your heart beating. But here's the sad part. You can't feel it happening. You don't feel your bones breaking down, right? It takes decades and decades and decades, and you go from a healthy bone to an osteoporotic bone, and then you get severely weak bones, and you end up with a fracture, right? Which obviously drastically affects your quality of life. My ex-mother-in-law just fractured her hip last week. And I know what an uphill battle she's going to have now as she gets older. So again, the scary part here, you guys, you don't feel it happening with micronutrients. It's not like macros. If you don't get enough macros, you lose weight. You can see it happening, right? You can see it happening when you gain weight. With micros, can't feel it. You can't feel it happen, and that's the scary part. We call
it hidden hunger. We call it hidden hunger.
Hidden hunger. That's right. Our body.
Calories, so you that's hunger. You can feel that, but hidden hunger is the shortage of micronutrients.
So calcium, in meeting your daily needs, what does it require? So here are the numbers. These numbers don't really mean anything to anybody unless you're really paying attention, which we suggest you do, right? Because now with food labeling, you can actually see calcium content. But as you can see during your, growing years, you need the most. And then, 1,000 for most adults. And then as you get older and you start to break down, you need even more. Women need especially more after menopause. And a good strategy to think of is 3 servings daily of dairy or fortified foods. And here are some just examples of how you can do that. And once again, most people don't do this. So we need to be more intentional with getting that. And then 500 milligrams a time to maximize absorption if you are taking a dietary supplement. We'll go into calcium a little bit more in our next master class.
Yeah.
Okay, so just for an example, this is what the 2015-2020 dietary guidelines found in terms of usual intake from dairy. So look who consumes the most. Orange is what the average intake is. Blue is what the recommended range is. So babies, toddlers, right, when they're young are getting enough. And look at how their intake happens over time. So to Neil's point, dairy is a significant source of vitamin D and calcium, bone-building nutrients. And now we have stuff like rickets coming back, right, which is a deficiency state.
And one more comment on that for all of you that are parents. Kids that stop drinking milk because you did for some reason end up fracturing 8 times more than kids that do drink milk. And it's not because of the milk. It's because of the calcium and the vitamin D and the micronutrients in it. Okay, I'm not worried about a kid getting enough protein. I'm not worried about any of those. I'm worried about a kid getting calcium, vitamin D, and that is one of the best delivery systems for it. There's other ways of getting it, don't get me wrong, but the point is that those are the facts. Kids that stop drinking milk fracture 8 times more than kids that continue drinking it.
8 times more. 8 times more. Okay, another example has to do with another bone building nutrient, right? Vitamin K. There's 2 forms of it, K1 and K2. We need it in about 5 different proteins for short-term survival to keep you alive. Blood clotting, right? If you have an internal cut, you don't want to hemorrhage to death. The body wants you to stay alive. so that you can stay alive, so that you can make babies, and you can propagate the species, right? That's what we're all programmed for. But you also need vitamin K for long-term functions. You might be thinking, like what? Well, calcifying our bones. You need proteins that require vitamin K in order to shuttle calcium where it's supposed to go throughout the body. Well, if you look at the intake in the United States, 70% of adults aren't getting enough vitamin K. So what could be a consequence? Well, once again, the body wants you to stay alive, so it's going to make these blood clotting proteins to keep you alive right now, but then it's not going to have enough vitamin K to make your calcium shuttle proteins. So it can't shuttle calcium to where it's supposed to go because you're not getting enough vitamin K, and over time, you get calcification of your arteries, but you can't feel it happening. It's undetectable for decades. Look at the picture. At 10 years, it's a little, and then 20 years, it's a little more. 30 years, it's a little more. And then you're in your 50s, your 40s and 50s, and you end up having cardiovascular disease. So there's a lot of other variables, but this is certainly a contributing one, not getting enough micronutrients. So how do you get enough? Well, scientists have only come up with an adequate intake. They haven't come up with an RDA yet, but they think it's around 75 to 90 for males and females. And you would get it by eating a large variety of your leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables, some of your plant oils as well. Okay, so vitamin K is also fat soluble, and you'd want to consume it with a dietary fat source. Okay, moving on. Magnesium as another example. Now, magnesium, whoa, Neil, this is a tough one because most of the population is not consuming far below recommended amounts, right? And you can see magnesium on what I put on the picture. It's in the center of the chlorophyll molecule. Chlorophyll, right? Green, you can see it's green. It's in your leafy greens. Our bodies, in that pathways of metabolism, it's required in 300 different enzymes or proteins in our metabolism. 60% of adults fall way short, the ear. And you need it to what? What do you need magnesium for? You need it to make energy, ATP, synthesizing, utilizing ATP, which is the energy currency in the body. So if you've got enough of it, then you can then make other proteins that are required for long-term health, which are proteins that repair DNA. But if you don't have enough magnesium, you can't make those proteins that repair DNA. And we know that moderate deficiency of magnesium is associated with certain cancers. So you set yourself up for these chronic diseases because of all this damage. And again, you can't go, look in the mirror one day and go, oh, I have DNA damage. I have calcification of the arteries. You can't see it or feel it happening until it's too late. So the obvious solution would be to meet your daily micronutrient needs. Here's how much you guys need, and you want to eat a variety of whole grains, greens, and nuts. Well, how many people do you know are following a low-carb diet? They don't even eat grains, no carbs in their diet, and limit greens, right? Or don't eat any nuts and seeds in their diet. So most people aren't getting enough, and here's the average intake of green vegetables in our country. Once again, blue is what we should be eating, males on the left, females on the right. That's how much we should be consuming depending on the number of calories you have to spend. Orange is the average intake. Nobody is eating enough greens, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, Neil, but I do believe cancer is at the highest point in terms of prevalence it's ever been in, maybe not, maybe we could measure it back in prehistoric time.
Certain cancers are. We've actually done a good job of tamping some down because of drugs, but right, I mean, they wouldn't have been there in the first place if people had followed, directions on nutrient intake.
Absolutely. So vitamin E, this is the last one, and then we'll move on to some solutions. Vitamin E, as we said, there is a family of what's called tocopherols. They're fat soluble. You need it for your immune function. Its primary function is for oxidative damage, preventing against free radical damage in your body. And over 90% of the population falls way below. There's evidence that it shows that it slows cognitive decline by getting enough one, and that makes sense. If you're going to protect your cell membranes, again, your Your cells are all covered with a lipid bilayer. Most of your brain is fatty tissue. And adults need this much, 15 mg a day. And to get enough, you'd have to get a lot of healthy fats in your diet from seeds, nuts, and healthy plant oils. And I don't have to tell you that, your oil intake, you're probably not going to be surprised to see this. Again, recommended is in blue, right? And this is oils and solid fats. So look at the orange. Orange is solid fat. That's your saturated fats. Those are your bad oils. Those don't help have high levels of vitamin E. And then this is your average intake is in green. We're falling way short of micronutrients across the spectrum, right? And so what are the consequences? Essentially, nature programs us for survival. It rations our vitamin mineral so that you can survive on the short term, so that you can reproduce, so that you can make babies and propagate the species. But what you give up as the cost of staying alive now is long-term health, and you set yourself up for these age-related diseases, or they call them the diseases of aging. So here's some food for thought for you, okay? You can see the prevalence of chronic disease in our country. Neil, it used to be infectious disease that was the #1 killer, right? Except for when obesity, started to crop up. And now we know that 7 out of 10 adults are either overweight or obese. 4 of those are obese. We know that obesogenic diets are high in calories and low in micronutrients. You saw those top food sources.
Yeah.
We know that obesity vastly increases the risk of all chronic diseases. When you're obese, you set yourself up for your body, giving way to a chronic disease. Now think about this. If you're helping clients lose weight, they've got to cut calories, which means they're cutting micronutrients. So what are we doing as health and fitness professionals? Are we making sure that we improve our clients' health by helping them lose weight and body fat in conjunction with making sure they're getting their micronutrient needs? Because to me, it's irresponsible to not do that, knowing that you're going to be setting people up for micronutrient insufficiencies and long-term health consequences. Okay, so I ask this question all the time. Think about all the different types of insurances that you have, right? And I just quickly Googled, insurance, and here's what I came up with. A thing providing protection against a possible eventuality, a means of protection. The act, system, or business of insuring property, life, one's person, etc., against loss or harm arising in specified contingencies. So think about all the different insurances you have. Which of these do you guys have? Do you have medical insurance, health insurance, dental insurance? What about some of these other ones? Like, did I lose it? Car insurance?
No,
how many of you guys have car insurance? Okay. How many of you have renter's insurance and mortgage insurance? What about life insurance? How many of you have life insurance? How about pet insurance? Right? We make sure we insure our pets. Now, do you have nutritional insurance? Do your clients have nutritional insurance? I would argue that it's equally, if not more important than some of these other insurances that we have and that we're paying for on a monthly basis. And so we want to talk to you next about nutritional insurance. Neil, take it away.
Yeah. So and when it comes to nutritional insurance, I mean, that is a common word that is used by taking a multivitamin, but it's so much more than that. To Kat's point, though, later on in life, if you've had enough vitamins and minerals, you've had enough to build a strong structure that will last and hopefully stave off your early aging, like people that don't get all the vitamin minerals they need. So I get that. That's in nutritional insurance against what's going to happen later on. But the other part is that taking it by making sure you have your vitamin and minerals from the time you're in the womb for your entire life. That's why I always say lifetime complete multivitamin mineral supplementation throughout every phase of life is what's important, because one good turn deserves another. If you fracture a whole bunch of times because you're not getting the stuff you need, you're not going to move. You're going to stop moving. Bad things are going to happen. You don't get enough omega-3s when you're in the womb. You don't get omega-3s as you're developing. Your brain doesn't have the same potential someone else's brain does that has all the omega-3s, since they're so important when it comes to brain development and other parts of the body. So, and if anything ever proved it, was this, the prenatal. The prenatal proved it to all of us. Back in the 1970s, it became mandatory that the AMA, American Pediatric Society, OBGYNs, recommended to everybody that they take a multivitamin mineral if they're going to conceive. And that wiped out over 30% of all major birth defects. So think about that for a minute. I mean, if that isn't a wake-up call to everybody, that you don't just accidentally eat foods and everything's going to be okay. That was the beginning of the beginning, you know, and that never stops. You don't come out of the womb and all of a sudden eat better. It starts getting worse as you get older, worse and worse, right? So this is just a thing that we should continue to do. If it's good enough for the baby in the womb, it's good enough for you for the rest of your life. We're trying to stop adult defects, let alone birth defects. And those are the things that are going to happen later on. So again, that's really, truly, that's the beginning of us. I want people to understand that, number one, okay, which sets the stage for everything going forward. Go ahead, Kat. So you can talk to these. Just quickly go through this. Just kind of shows you that, you know, people supplement.
Right. So what does the actual research show about multivitamin and mineral supplements? So let's just take a look real quick. What you're looking at is a study that measured compared to food alone, micronutrient intakes. Notice it says the percent of the population below the ear, which is once again lower than the recommended daily value. So it measured against food, which would be 0 days a month taking a multivitamin supplement. And those bars you can see have the highest prevalence or the highest rates of insufficiencies. And then can you see the trend? The more frequently they took a multivitamin and mineral supplement, the fewer shortages or insufficiencies that they have. So in this particular study, compared to food alone, taking a multivitamin was associated with a lower prevalence of inadequacies of 15 of the 17 micronutrients examined. And so here's some more data from that same study, looking at more micronutrients, right? This is females, this is males, and you can see that people not taking just food alone, they have the biggest gaps in their diets. Look at the white clear bars. And then the more frequently you took it, then all those little, you know, asterisks, that means they're significantly different than the previous bar, statistically significant. Okay, so we know that multivitamin minerals make a difference. Now, this was a big report, Neil. I think you should cover this one.
Yeah, that's good. So go ahead and put it all out there. This is from the 14 top. These are people that make me look stupid, make all of us that way. These are the top nutritional scientists in the world. They do a Delphi, study on the use of multivitamin minerals and how they should be recommended and so forth. So here it is. Multivitamin minerals can broadly improve micronutrient intakes when they contain at least those that are consumed insufficiently or have limited bioavailability by population. So what that means is this. When you look at studies that say a multivitamin mineral didn't do anything for you, you know what the definition of a multivitamin mineral in that study was? Greater than or equal to 3 vitamins or minerals. Well, there's 20 that we know there's a good chance you're not getting the maximum amount. So how does that even qualify? So you can't study that. It is a logic disconnect. These are the smartest people in the world right here, okay, when it comes to nutrition. And they're telling you, yes, you need to supplement if you're not getting it from food. And we know you're not getting it from food, so you need to supplement. It's that simple. I'm not making this. These are the smartest people. So you have to kind of, logic is this. This isn't a trick equation. Here are the RDAs, which are associated with better health outcomes for vitamins and minerals. No one gets it. No one, and hundreds of studies prove that. Okay. And it's not getting better, it's getting worse, even with fortified food. Even though fortified food helped it a ton in the beginning, it is now, doesn't matter because we're avoiding foods completely. We can't bet money that someone's going to eat that fortified food, okay? So it is now even more important to take a multivitamin mineral if you want to live a longer, better, I'm not saying longer, but at least better at each decade. I don't know if you're going to get hit by a car or not, So the point is that certainly each decade of your life can be better if you have all your vitamin minerals, as you saw from that slide before. All those parts of your metabolism are vitamin mineral dependent, which is why you can't live without them. And and your body down regulates to what you take in, so it functions at a less level. So let's move on to that, so I can just show them this.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to point out, Neil, that those of you who are concerned about safety, the last data point, long-term use of multivitamin and minerals right here, not exceeding the upper limit, right? It's been determined to be safe. So anyone's worried about that. Now, mega dosing might be different, right? We don't want to advise you to mega dose.
Well, I always say low dose complete multivitamin mineral is what you need to complement your foods. And you'll see that in 2 seconds here. I'll show it to you. I'm going to go through this very quick because we're taking too long here. But Linus Pauling, who is maybe one of the smartest guys that ever lived, he's the only 2-time Nobel laureate. This guy here was like obviously very smart. He has institute at Oregon State. I'm a big fan of everything that they do there. And he wrote this here: I believe you can, by taking some simple and inexpensive measures. I'm talking about 25 cents a day here. We're not talking about $10 a day, 25 cents a day. Lead a longer life and extend your years of well-being. My most important recommendation is that you take vitamins every day in optimal amounts to supplement the vitamins you receive from your food. A brilliant statement, and why the whole world doesn't do that doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, so how do you build the perfect one? We're psycho about this, so I'm gonna go very quickly through this. And in fact, I'm in my office right now. This is on the board out here, as we I did this over the last few years, and as we updated our multivitamin mineral. You list all the vitamins and minerals that are absolutely essential. In other words, you die without one of them. And you list what people get from food intake. So the list is there. Next one there, that's what people are getting from food in the US or Western nations, okay? There's the RDA. Then the upper limits that we talked about, you don't want to go past that, is there. So what's the gap between mean food intake and the RDA? You can see this. I use vitamin D as an example, but you got 30 of them here. All right. And then what is the mean food gap to the UL? 90. So what's the supplement should be? It needs to be somewhere between 20 and 40 micrograms in this particular supplement with this particular ingredient we pulled out. That's how you build the perfect multi. That's why you don't go to the mass market and buy these things. They don't do that. They just throw stuff in a bottle. That's perfect. And then you've also got to look at your multi, because if you need something like a calcium supplement, or you're taking a protein powder or something that's got vitamins and minerals in it also, or a calcium supplement that needs vitamin D, K, and magnesium to work, you got to make sure it doesn't cross the UL when you add the two together. No one does that. We do that from a synergistic standpoint so that they all work together. If you're keeping the same label, the dot fit label, because we're a practitioner product, we sell to practitioners through them to take care of you, that is exactly what you want when you put your whole health program together. And of course, we NSF certified. Okay, so here we go. The goal, right, at the end of the day is to correct food vitamin mineral content to achieve the RDAs. So if you look right there on the left, is you see where the basketball, this is actually from a performance lecture I do. So all humans fall into their typical food intake is on the lower part there, on the lower left right here. You see typical food intake right here. So that means all of us are insufficient with food alone, all of us. Our goal is to get you to the recommendation. So we have 100% vitamin mineral activity, right? Because here's the gaps. So we want to supplement you within the allotted calories. I can't just give you foods. That obesity will totally offset any value to getting the right vitamin minerals. We just got to get you in there. So bottom line is the correction is no gaps, which is 100% vitamin mineral activity. And now I've got your body humming all the way around for that, at least on the vitamin mineral standpoint, okay? So the bottom line, look at the bottom here, look at the bottom. The function of a lifelong, inexpensive, low dose, complete vitamin mineral, which is approximately 20 vitamin minerals that we know can be short, is to offer the potential for all vitamin mineral dependent systems to operate at full capacity in the creation and maintenance of the human structure, function, health, and recovery, and that includes your immune system. So every time I get interviewed by TV or radio during this time, I got news for you. If you've been listening to me this whole time, you wouldn't have to worry about this stuff. Okay, so that's, go to the next one.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So you can hear me, yes?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so let's close it out and then we'll take your guys' questions. So what some of the strategies, just to recap. I want to be clear. Nothing replaces a healthy diet. Okay, nothing. We always want you to eat the best that you can, right? And to continue to learn. So consume a wide variety of foods within your calories, you know, and that's where it gets tricky working with people who are very sedentary, is they can only spend so many calories, and they want to also lose weight. And then add nutritional insurance to fill the gaps, you know, just in case. You know, that's a smart move. And so what do we do here at DotFit? What have we been doing for the last 20, 30 plus years? We've been trying to share this message on how important it is to get the micronutrients you need for, you know, as Neil coined the phrase, not just a long life, but a long play span, how long you can stay active, doing the things you love. And so we work tirelessly to make sure that you're getting it and your clients are getting it. So every product is third-party tested, every DotFit product. You can see all the different multivitamins that we have so that it's suited to your age, your life stage. Even if you're a vegan, you need to have nutrient needs. Of course, we make one for kids. The forms and dosages match our research. Our research reviews are published on our website. Nobody does that. You guys should check that out. Those have all the scientific findings that, and every document has at least, you know, 5 pages of references that you could get into the science. And then Neil mentioned synergy. You take our vitamins along with the calcium, along with omega, along with the whey protein. Everything is synergistic so that you don't get close to the upper limit. You don't take excessive amounts. And then finally, one of the things that we're most passionate about is delivering a complete solution to you and your clients. It's not just about the supplements. It's the supplements in conjunction with a healthy diet, in conjunction with regular exercise, in conjunction with having coaching and accountability so that you can have that long play span that we all want for us and for our families and for their families. So if you're a trainer on this call, we're starting to develop all these different resources like infographics to help spread the word and help educate people about micronutrients. We're putting up our micronutrients infographics probably next week, but that's all on DotFit Tools. And really our mission isn't changed since day one, right? To help save the world through fitness. So yeah. Neil, close it out and then I'll take questions.
So we're going to take questions now, but so the sign off to this whole thing is that as health professionals in our discipline, right, where we give you, you know, non-clinical nutrition programming to match your exercise and all these different things, our approach is prevention before cure. So our goal is to make sure that your body has all it needs as it grows and goes throughout life. That's what our goal is. So rather than just, you know, just waiting to get sick and then having to go get, you know, drugs or whatever, you know, so that's the point, prevention before cure. And that can't happen without filling all your nutritional gaps throughout your life. And that can't happen with food alone. We've just shown you that. It's not going to happen with food alone. So you do need to supplement at least at some point to fill in those gaps, just to, again, at the very worst, hedge your bets. At the best, improve your chances of having a better quality of life in, you know, in each decade, because you just can't guarantee what you're actually getting all the way around. So that's what I just want you to remember, that there's a whole bunch of things big pharma doesn't want us to know, and that's one of them. They don't want anybody to know, well, you know, why would you want to be healthy? Because we make money selling drugs. Well, our job is to keep people from having to take drugs. So let's just do the best we can. I understand when you do, when we need to, but the bottom line is we want to stop that. If we can do that from day one all the way through, to be able to help people live a longer, better life.
Okay. Okay, so Neil, you ready?
Yep.
Elizabeth asked, would you be okay under 1,200 calories, 1,200 milligrams of calcium per day?
Under?
Under.
Well, I mean, that's the recommended dietary allowances is 1,200. I'd rather you didn't, but I will tell you this. If you're exercising, so you're loading your body, getting enough magnesium and vitamin D, you can probably be okay I'm only surmising because I'm not no one's ever tested it. You could probably be under it a couple hundred milligrams daily, because one of the reasons calcium requirements are so high in the US, because no one gets enough vitamin D and no one gets enough magnesium. If you had that, then you probably wouldn't need that much calcium. So I would do the best you can to try to get to 1200, because you certainly won't hurt yourself doing that, and you're really covering all your bases.
Okay, so another question has to do with vitamin B12 and iron sources for vegans. Well, you got to get it from plants. Yeah, you got to get like non-heme iron, right? You got to get it from plants, and that's how we formulated the vegan multi.
And that's why you take a multivitamin mineral, because iron is not very available through plants. It's non-heme, and a non-heme source means your body has to convert it, so it loses a whole bunch trying to convert it. The good news about eating it from meat is the cow ate the grass, converted the non-heme into heme, and we ate the cow. So we get heme iron, and whoa, it's very available, right? Which is more natural for a human. So, but if you are, that's why we created the vegan multi. It's got the non-heme source at a higher number, so you'll have plenty combined with your diet. And the same with B12.
Okay, good. So Daniel wants to know, are there recommendations on what times of the day are best to consume the food groups based on digestive/metabolism, or is that a myth? That's pretty much a myth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you're right on that one, for sure.
Your digestive system works whenever you eat.
Yeah,
yep.
No question.
Whenever you eat, it
we know that
on.
There's some little nuances in the fact that we are daytime creatures, right? We're not nocturnal animals. Yeah. So there's definitely some difference there, but that has nothing to do with the average human, or is going to make a difference. You just have to adapt to that. The digestive system works pretty much all the way around the clock.
Absolutely. Okay, another question. Which cooking oil is preferable to use daily? I'll answer that. You should use a variety, right? A variety of plant sources, because everyone's going to have different properties. If you want something with a lower smoke point, then, extra virgin. If you want something with a higher smoke point, you might go for, something like avocado oil. So, but just a variety, just to mix it up, is a good thing. And then I think you had a follow-up question. Micronutrient food sources come with macros. So how to keep calories limited by making sure RDAs of micros are consumed? Well, I showed you that sample micronutrient-rich diet, and even with that, most people have gaps in their diet. That's kind of what we're saying.
Yeah, and I'm glad that someone brought that up, though, because vitamins and minerals, and there's about 30 of them that you can't live without, right? So you can't see them in your food, and you can't look at the amounts when you're looking at your plate. You can look at the amount of protein on your plate. You can look at the amount of carbs and the fats, and you can look at the amount of water in a glass, okay? But you can't see the vitamin minerals on your plate. They're invisible, basically. So you're not going to know that number. That's the whole point of taking a low-dose complete multivitamin mineral, to complement those foods, to make sure you're actually getting them no matter what.
Okay, good. Amy wants to know, so should we all be having a multivitamin? What time of day should we take one?
Okay, so the answer to the first part is absolutely everyone should be taking one. And that's what I am trying to get policy changed in everywhere. So when you go to your doctor, you go to your dietitian, they say, listen, eat the best you can and continue to eat the best you can, but it's very difficult to get all the vitamin and minerals that you can from food. We know that based on the amount of calories and based on what people choose, everything else. But we want you to so at least take a low dose multivitamin mineral like you did, like we do for pregnant females, or somebody conceiving. So continue to do that. That's all I'm trying to get them to say. Nothing more than that. Just a little bit of thing there and always try to eat the best you can at the same time. So the answer to that part is yes. And the best time to take it is right after a meal. So you have a breakfast or you have lunch, take your multivitamin right then.
Okay, good. And as you guys know, we covered that, some of the vitamins are fat soluble, so you need to have, that's why you take it after a meal, et cetera. Question about what are repercussions for getting too much of any micronutrients? Lots. There could be lots if you get too much. That's why we say low dose.
Yeah.
Right, Neil? Low dose
and that's the whole
multivitamin. And we don't
of taking it, and that's why you take a complete multivitamin mineral, low dose, because you don't have to take the other ones then. I mean, mega dosing, I don't even know where that came up. That came up, I don't know, back in the 70s or 80s. I don't think anybody even does it anymore. So that's kind of like old school stuff. You still see some conservative old school people that haven't picked up a book recently, or gone to school recently and understood stuff. Like, we're constantly we're way ahead of we're in the very front of research. That still, they talk about, I go, what are you talking about? No one does that anymore. I mean, some people do, obviously. I mean, you're not going to just take these super high vitamin B, super high, of some kind of fat soluble vitamin like A. I mean, very few people do that. We've even proven that in studies. So, it's kind of an old school thing. But yeah, you're going to have consequences. I mean, too much of anything is bad for you.
Absolutely. And then certain ones, Neil, you have to take them separately because it either won't fit in a multivitamin, right? Or you just need it to be separate, like because some people are getting enough from food, like a calcium. So
right. Calcium and potassium are the two big ones.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to put potassium in a multivitamin, considering we need 4,000 milligrams a day, right? And we need calcium, we need 1,200. If you're short on it, you're going to need a supplement separate. So that's why you got to be careful on that. You can't just put them in there. If you see calcium at like 100 milligrams in a multivitamin, I mean, that doesn't really make any sense. If you need it, you're going to need a separate one. So that's pretty much what we're talking about.
Okay, no, these products are not shipped to India, at least not yet. And everything will be uploaded on our website, dotfit.com. You actually get a follow-up email from us with a link to the recording and the slides. Okay, so how many days does it take to recover once you know that you're deficient in vitamin D or any other micro? You would have to get retested. It depends on the micronutrients.
Yeah, but that's a great question though, because I hate it when I get interviewed, well, what can we do, with the virus and all this? And I go, if you had listened to me 24 years ago, I wouldn't have to tell you anything. You'd be just doing that and you've already done it. You can't start today. You can't start today and think everything's going to be okay. That complete multivitamin mineral, the right amount of vitamin D, if you were taking it all this time, your immune system would have been upregulated to those vitamins and minerals, because they run your immune system, by the way, okay, rather than downregulated to where it is today. And I love the question, because it's probably at least 3-6 months to a year of making sure you have all your vitamin minerals before your body upregulates. It takes that long to build all the enzymes back.
Tough. Yeah, it's tough.
And that's
it's
why
tough
you never
to
stop.
Know. Okay.
That's why you do it your whole life.
What do you say, Neil? Womb to tomb, right?
Womb to tomb.
Okay, do organic versus inorganic food differences in micronutrients when comparing? No, there's no difference. There's no difference. The difference is in slightly varying levels of pesticides, but both conventional and organic foods are way below the allowable pesticide levels, just so that you know. So it would be something based on preference, based on taste, maybe supporting the local economy, maybe ecological reasons. But no, the data right now shows that they're not more nutritious.
That's right.
Okay, is it best to take vitamin supplements with food? And as Neil said, yes, it is, because your body will release enzymes. You also need some of the fat for absorption that's in your diet. So it's best to take it with food. Trusting your presentation will address. Hold on, it's coming in while I'm trying to read it. Bioavailability, expensive P. Lastly, what peer-reviewed science is there supporting your progress compared to others or control groups? So Ingrid, all of these questions, we've touched upon, but just based on the time, we can't really do deep dives. It takes, hours and hours and months to go deep into this topic, but we do have tons of research all published on our website that's available, that cites all the studies, for all our multivitamins. So we encourage you to go up and read. And if you want to know what that URL is, I'll tell you so you can write it down. dotfit.com/P as in Paul, D as in dog, S as in Sam, R as in rainbow, and G as in giraffe. dotfit.com/PDSRG. Just download one of the multivitamins, and there's several papers that Neil has put together along with our, who we collaborate with at the different universities, and you'll see all the science that's there. Daniel says he wants to give a shout out to Neil. Yay.
Hey, Daniel.
He says, I want to give out to Neil's Flex Joint Supplement, which removes joint pain from weighted vest training. Oh, good job with the weighted vest training. It's a lot of good research on there of offsetting, metabolic drops from weight loss. Okay, so Dax wants to know, what is the general recommended dosage of micronutrient for someone that follows an intense workout program 4 to 5 days a week? I'll let you answer that, Neil.
Oh, the micronutrient one? Well, if you're talking about
general? Yeah.
You're taking your active multi once in the morning and once at night. All right. And then if you're not eating fish, then you're going to take the omega-3. And if you're really that intense, I would take 2 omega-3s a day rather than the one that we normally recommend. 1 gram per pound of protein, 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass daily, unless you're dieting. If you're dieting, you're going to go higher than that. Okay. And that's your standard baseline. And then the rest of it depends on what your really goal is body composition wise. If I'm going to add creatine or a weight loss product or whatever, but that's the standard recommendation that you need to make sure you're taking daily.
Yep. And I would say get your vitamin D levels tested.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, because our multis have 1,200 milligrams or IUs of vitamin D. 2 actives do. And which is 400 IUs above the RDA. So it should be enough, but it's often not what we like athletes at. We like athletes at 40 nanograms per milliliter in their when we do a blood test on them. And it takes an extra vitamin D supplement, to Kat's point, to get them there on top of the 1,200 milligrams. So you probably have to add 1,000 or 2,000 more IUs of a separate vitamin D supplement to get to that number. And if you're training like you said, then I would consider you like one of these competitive athletes.
Yep. Definitely want to be above 40 for intense workouts like that. Okay, let's see. First off, thank you both. This webinar is very informative and straight to the point. Do you recommend the Women's Daily Multivitamin and Calcium for someone, parenthetically my mom, diagnosed with osteoporosis, or would the multivitamin alone suffice? Well, I would say yes, in conjunction with her healthcare provider.
Yeah.
Right. And to your point, absolutely. It depends.
Yeah. Talk to your healthcare provider, certainly in the multi. But if she's over 50, I'm guessing she is. If he has, then she would use the over 50, not the women's.
Yeah.
And then the calcium separate, make sure she takes that into her provider, and he looks at it or she looks at it and says, okay, cool, you can take this too, because I'm guaranteed she's on drugs.
Yep. And then of course, weight bearing exercises, right? You're going to want her to do that. So Bob Wells out of Crunch Flatbush says, thank you so much for putting this together. Very informative. Provide some helpful tips. You are welcome, Bob Wells. Hope everything's going great out there at Crunch Flatbush. Yeah. Mike McLaughlin says, have you seen any research on benefits of multivitamins for kids with autism?
Well, there are actually quite a bit. We don't get there because that's clinical. I distance myself. Now, Kat being a dietitian, she can get clinical. And then we have a clinical dietitian also, Gay Riley, who specializes in stuff. We can always forward them to. But I mean, there's no reason in the world, if you had autism, you wouldn't be using a complete multivitamin mineral and an omega-3. So I will tell you that.
And an omega. Yeah.
Omega-3.
Yep. Omega-3 is directly linked to all the social hormones and the social functions in the brain. So there is quite a bit of research on that. So I would definitely look into that. And if they're not eating fish, then there's certainly no harm, in getting the amounts you need.
It's,
Okay,
it's
you guys,
actually,
is that it?
It's actually a very common prescription for autism, omega-3s.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so hey, a ton of you stuck around to the end, and I'm surprised you don't have any more questions. So if for some reason you forget, be sure to email us, experts, experts at dotfit.com. And if you're raising your hand, I can't really undo the audio, so if you could just type it into the chat, that would be great. Once again, the recording is going to be posted on our website under .fit Tools, probably early next week, I would say, because Neil's the only one at the office, and we're a little short-staffed for today as we celebrate Juneteenth. So you're welcome, everybody. For everybody that's saying thank you, you're very welcome. So Neil,
appreciate everyone, and happy Juneteenth. Celebrate it. Understand it.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you guys next month.